Welcome to Ready, Set, Hunt. Whether you're an aspiring, new, or seasoned hunter, join us as we share our experiences and learn from other hunters around the country.
Welcome back, Ready, Set, Hunt. It is February 26, 2026, that is, not the 26th.
I was going to say today's the 23rd.
It is the 23rd, but I was going for the year. Welcome back, everyone. It's been a hot minute. I know that there's probably a lapse if you're looking at the dates on the Q playlist. If you're an avid Ready, Set, Hunt patron, we should call them patrons. Because
Listener?
Well, I know you're not giving money. Anybody's giving money, but you're giving your time, and that's patron enough for me.
Time is more valuable than money anyway, right, Chris?
It's true. In certain circumstances, it's always true. And then sometimes money might be more valuable than time.
Well, actually, I think in what we're talking about today, I think there's an argument to be made that time is more valuable than money.
Ooh, I would argue the opposite, because if I had $1 million, I could buy pretty much any elk tag and get on any ranch and get a guided hunt right to 10 yards from their biggest bull and go home after 2 hours.
Yeah, well, you also got to think about, you need to have the time to commit to hunting elk as well. And I'd say that's almost just as valuable as the amount of money you actually spend to go elk hunting, although that can be a lot. But anyway, Chris, why don't you intro what we're talking about today?
We could take the whole episode and go back and forth. No, we are talking, this is episode, I believe, 28. So we are in almost to the 30s, and we are getting to planning your first archery elk hunt.
We'll focus on archery because that's what we're doing this upcoming fall, but I think it's important to approach it generally, and we'll talk about why in a little bit. But because if you want to go on your first elk hunt and you don't own a bow, just know that there are options for you. Or if you're not an archer, there are options for you. We will probably
a stick. You can whittle it down into a spear.
Mm-hmm.
If you pull some horsehair off of the neighbor's horse's tail, I'm sure you could spin that into some sort of elasticity with that spear. This is for beginners, right? Going all the way back to the...
we're going to the beginning of time, it sounds like to me.
All right, no more being silly. No, I just differentiated. Wow, that was a word for me tonight. On the archery side of things, because overall, gear and most of your gear and your practices leading up to any hunt is going to be similar, but you're also going to have some vast differences.
Yeah.
For locating those animals, and then also getting into calling and behaviors and even weather. So, why don't you kick it off for just, as we start talking about planning out west, like you mentioned, we are going into looking at Colorado and doing archery. And this is exciting for us because we haven't been out west in a minute with our bows. So
yeah, it's
true. We're revisiting our first Western hunt years ago, which was in Nebraska, which was a lot of fun. But we're bringing it full circle now as the rifles have definitely taken center stage, and that's been fun.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, set us up. What are you looking forward to? Just general overview.
Yeah, admittedly, it's very tempting to just say, let's just use the rifles. The opportunity with a rifle just seems to be so much greater in terms of success. And yeah, it's pretty hard to pass up that opportunity. But I think our last elk hunt out west, which we were using our rifles, we did come to realize that there's some definite advantages of using a bow, which we'll get into a little bit more in a bit here. But I think for this episode, really what I want to communicate and make sure that you walk away with as a listener, what you're walking away with is a pretty simple roadmap on how to plan your first elk hunting trip out west. It can seem super daunting, and in some ways it is, but our hope is to make it a little more straightforward for you, have a little more confidence moving into it, and we're going to kind of let and tell you the tools that you need to plan an elk trip out west. Because I just think about all the overwhelming parts of it. Getting a tag, we'll talk about that first. There's traversing different types of terrain, the places that elk live. It's having the necessary gear to get the job done, successfully execute a hunt, but also what's going to keep you comfortable, what's going to keep you in the field for longer, and then also everyone's favorite, maybe, or the least favorite part of it, the fitness that's required for these types of hunts. So for me, I think people look at elk as kind of like the pinnacle of Western hunting. It's like the most majestic animal. It's got like the largest antlers. They bugle. They make these crazy, crazy sounds in September when they're rutting. And I think everyone dreams when they think about hunting out west of an elk hunt. And so if that's you and you're listening to this and you're excited for your first elk trip, you are not alone. I think the idea of hunting elk is really what got me the most interested in Western hunting when I was pretty early on in my hunting career. And just having that dream ahead of me and my eyes fixed on something, although elk wasn't my first Western hunt, it got me out there and it got me into those areas and exploring all these different topics that you have to explore in order to start doing this type of stuff. So again, this podcast isn't necessarily a Western hunting centric podcast. It's a podcast that's meant for new hunters, beginners, or people that are interested in getting into hunting. So we thought it would be really important to talk about how to plan your first elk hunting trip. Did I miss anything, you think, Chris, in our little intro, or maybe what to expect and walk away from in this episode?
I don't think so. I think overall, we just primarily happen to have a goal every year for us, which is to go out west. We enjoy that. We were talking about time and money. We would equally as enjoy going to the Appalachians or doing down southern waterfowl down in southeastern, or hog hunts or javelina, or there's just all those awesome hunts out there. We have to be picky and choosy, as I think a lot of guys do. Just like, man, where am I going to put my time and money? Like if I only get 7 days for the year, like for a big hunt, besides like getting out in the back, 40 at your farm or neighbors or whatever it is, that's what we're electing to do. So we strategize by building up points. When we started doing this, we said, can we keep building up points in a way that would allow us to selectively try to dart throw at certain animals each year while the rest of our points build and not use them. So sometimes you have to spend them, sometimes you can bank them. Other times you have enough to draw a certain species or you get lucky on one. But a lot of guys are probably in a similar boat. So with that in mind, if you're not just hunting, like I said, in your home state, and I mean, if you live in Montana or Wyoming or Utah or Arizona, like my mind is just like, you got it made. That's special. That's special, especially over the counter, resident prices, stuff like that. But yeah, I think we're, like I said, it's February. We're in the lull of our hunting experiences. Generally, this is the time. We don't have a spring hunt planned at this moment. And I don't know if we're going to do too much fishing through the summer, which I'd like to. I know you like to as well. But then we get into some fall trips. But yeah, when you're here in February, after coming off a hunting season, what are you doing? What are you thinking about? Like, do you have a burnout and then get excited again? Are you excited all the way through? Tell me about you.
Yeah, for me, hunting for me, even though I'm not actively hunting year round, hunting or being a hunter is a year round pursuit. Because as soon as the hunting season is over, especially in a lot of these Western states, you have to start thinking about tag applications for the upcoming fall. So you can't really completely shut your mind off. I would say my mind is the least on hunting for like the 2 or 3 weeks after my hunting season has concluded, I can kind of take a little reprieve, take a little time to breathe, focus on the holidays, focus on family, that kind of thing. But by the time you are hitting end of December, beginning of January, I mean, there's several states where applications are already due. So you really have to have a strategy and a schedule in mind about what you're going to be doing the following season. Now, if it's, some local hunts where you live, like for us in Minnesota, I don't think too far ahead about my Minnesota hunts just because they're just kind of always there. It's what I'm used to. But if you're wanting to go somewhere else out of state, especially out west, you really do have to be strategic about it and know your dates and deadlines of when you're going to get things done. So yeah, I mean, I think about hunting year round. I was thinking the other day, I'm like, aside from like my family and maybe and like my faith and like my relationship with God, like what is something that I don't go probably more than a couple hours thinking about every single day? And for me, it's hunting. I'm thinking about something hunting related every single day, probably every hour, if I'm being quite honest. If it's just like a little thing that pops into my head, or maybe I see something on YouTube or social media about some new product or something, I'm just in it always, and I love it. It's so much fun just to dream about the fall and crisp fall mornings, and yeah, I just love it. How about you? Are you thinking about it as much as I am? I feel like this isn't a unique thing in any way, shape, or form.
The answer is yes, with one caveat, and that is if I'm coming off of either a saturation of hunts right out of the
Mm-hmm.
fall into, because it pretty much goes up till December 31st, right? You might have some pheasants or something like that right after the new year, but traditionally, if it's a good hunting season or a bad hunting season or a challenging one, a disappointing one, uh, I have a different experience of a lull. So if it's
Mm,
a good one, I'm excited, I'm pumped, I'm in a celebratory state, and I appreciate that. I still am getting into the meat, smoking it, putting it on the grill, enjoying that because I think there's an enjoyment factor in all that and the success. Or I'm burnt out. And I'm
yeah.
like, I don't remember if it was this year or last year, but I do remember after a couple of my fishing trips, maybe it was this year, there was a week or so there that I was like, I'd be good if I sold everything I had and just enjoyed my family because I had kind of been away from them, and
Yeah.
some of those trips were longer and they didn't pan out exactly. And they weren't just hunting trips, but it was kind of all mixed in there. Didn't pan out the exact way the year at the tail end of it that I thought it was going to go. So that's also a new window of opportunity for looking towards 2026. What is going to happen? What do I want
Hmm.
to happen? And setting some goals. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think right now I'm pumped. The switch flipped and I'm ready to talk about hunting all day long, plan all day long,
Yeah.
gear up all day long. And I know that from my texts the last like week or so, I've been just sending you memes of elk, or
Pictures of elk.
I've just been like, this needs to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, well, and it's also show season. So, I mean, if you follow any of the different hunting companies, brands, influencers, that kind of stuff, like everyone is talking about new products right now and all these new things that are coming out. And so, it's a I think they do it on purpose. It's just everyone's been removed from hunting season, so now everyone's just getting amped back up, especially with like turkey season just a couple months away, spring bear season's opening in a couple months as well out west, and so it's just a fun time to just to get psyched out. But all right, enough about that. Let's talk nitty gritty. Let's get down to the details. Planning your first elk hunt. This is the meat and potatoes. This is why you're listening to this. So step one, Chris, what is step one of planning your first elk hunt?
Well, you need to have a tag. If you don't
Yep.
have a tag, you can't help. You
Yeah,
could.
and
You could hunt. There's going to be some. I always say you can choose whatever you want, but you can't choose the consequences of your choice.
yeah, well, and when it comes to getting tags, I feel like getting a tag can be one of the easiest parts of planning your elk hunt, but it can also be one of the hardest parts of your elk hunt, depending on what your goals are and what it is that you're wanting to do.
I think if you're brand new, like you're a deer in the headlights,
Oh,
like
totally.
pun intended.
Yeah.
But there's great resources like Go Hunt, or if you just jump on there's a lot of websites, a lot of forums.
Yeah.
You can, if you just read, you'll pretty quickly get some information. And then
Yep.
calling the local game wardens is always a clutch move to just do it.
Yep.
Hey, I'm interested in this. I'm trying to learn. Where do I start? And they'll always be pretty accommodating.
Yeah. So for like our beginner friendly states, like let's just focus on there's three primary states that you can focus on as a newbie. Easiest first and foremost, and this is going to be no surprise to anyone who's an experienced hunter, knows much about Western hunting, but easiest tag to get out west for elk is going to be Colorado. Colorado has always been considered an opportunity state. It's also got the largest elk herd in the lower 48, and there are over-the-counter options if you want to hunt elk in Colorado. There used to be over-the-counter options for archery and for second and third season rifle. But just last year was the first year that they got rid of over-the-counter archery tags, so that has moved to a draw. But there are plenty of units that you can draw with 0 preference points. So you can still hunt. You can still hunt elk with your bow. It's just not as quite as easy as it used to be to get a tag. But if you're wanting to hunt rifle anyway in the second or third season, which usually second season is like end of October through the first week of November, and then third season is usually that second to third week of November in Colorado. You can literally show up in Colorado, go to a Walmart or a sporting goods store, and buy that tag right over the counter. No applications, no nothing. You can just go buy the tag just like you might buy a tag in your home state for a whitetail or something like that. So
yeah, and when you're talking about Colorado, you're talking about the, like you mentioned, the largest herd in North America, which I mean, some say about 300,000 elk.
Yeah, there's a lot of elk, but caveat to know with that is that because it's pretty easy to get tags in Colorado, that also means that there's a lot of other hunters that are going to be out there. So a lot of elk, easy to get tags, a lot of hunters, which means a lot of pressure and competition. So does Colorado seem too good to be true? A little bit. There are some trade-offs, but if all you're looking for is to get a tag in your pocket and to be able to go and hunt in a state that has a lot of elk and has a lot of public land, Colorado's a good option, but you just might need to temper your expectations a little bit. You're probably not going to be running into many trophy bulls, but a lot of those units do have either sex tags available, so you can either shoot a bull, which they'll often have point restrictions, so you have to shoot something. I think it's 4 points on each side or bigger, but there are options where you can shoot a cow too, which is also awesome experience. You still get some of the best meat in the world, and they're still much bigger than your typical deer. So Colorado is a great option. That's where we're planning on going. We're going for archery, not an over-the-counter tag, but yeah, so that's pretty fun.
I did maybe misspeak there. It's not one herd, but I was talking about the, like, as a state, if it was a herd, it would be like if it was all of the state.
Yeah. Colorado has the most elk of any state, with a roughly, like you said, around 300,000 animals.
Montana and Oregon, Idaho, you're charting 120 to 150,000 elk in each of those, give or take. Wyoming's significant as well, and they, from what I'm doing some Googling right now, including the Jackson herd, which is the nation's largest herd.
Right.
Which is why I was correcting my comment earlier on the Colorado. Obviously, there's many herds in Colorado.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, price-wise, for a non-resident Colorado elk tag is just like right in the ballpark of around $800. And for some of you, your eyes just got really wide. But I want you to know that Colorado is actually one of the more affordable elk tags that you can get. So $800 is actually kind of on the lower end, as we're going to discuss in one of the next states we're going to talk about. But first, we're going to talk about Idaho. If you want to hunt Idaho for elk this upcoming season, you're kind of out of luck because their draw already happened. There are some leftover draws that you can get a tag in, but those are not going to be desirable units, and it's going to be very, very hit or miss. So I would not make Idaho as part of your plan this year. So Idaho is not an over-the-counter state. This was their first year that they just moved to a pure lottery. So you go and you apply, and then you have just as good a chance as anyone at drawing a tag. You do have to select what unit you want to hunt in. So there's that. So there are certain units that are going to be easier to draw or have a better odds than others. Pardon me. And but yeah, so Idaho, it's kind of out of the running this year, but you can definitely think about it for 2027. Idaho is usually one of the very first states that the applications are due. I think this year it was due in December, so you got to kind of be thinking about that well ahead of time. So if you're looking more at 2027 instead of 2026 for your first elk hunt, keep Idaho in your plans. Idaho, I think the tag is between $600 and $750, something like that. Chris, if you want to fact check me on that, I don't know. I know it's actually one of the cheapest elk tags, but in order to apply, you do have to buy a $200 qualifying license. So, and that's not included in the price of the elk tag. So it ends up being pretty close to that Colorado ballpark
You're gonna
of
be like, it says 846 and 75 cents all in.
all in. So very similar to Colorado. Again, one of the cheaper elk tags you can get in a good opportunity state. So Idaho's great, has a lot of elk, better trophy potential than Colorado. So that's a good one. The next one we're going to talk about is one we actually have some experience in. That's Montana. Montana is a big state, and they are also a good opportunity state. They have a lot of elk, a lot of public land. They also have grizzlies, so that's one thing you got to think about, and parts of Idaho does too. But Montana is one of the most expensive states that you can buy an elk tag in. Montana is not over the counter. It does have a draw system. They have a frustrating draw system, and it's very hard to explain. And I think I've talked about it in previous episodes, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here. But basically, what I'm going to tell you here is Montana is like an every other year type of state. You're probably not going to draw a Montana elk tag every year, but there's a pretty good chance to draw one every other year. It's just with how their point system works, it's kind of weird. But the all-in cost for a Montana elk tag is going to be just right around $1,200. So that's just for the ability to hunt elk in a general unit. That does not guarantee you success. That is just the price you have to pay for the privilege of hunting elk in Montana. So those are probably the best three beginner states to choose from. Wyoming, it's going to take you a while to draw a elk tag for one of their general units, usually 5 or 6 years. So Wyoming is kind of more of a medium range plan in terms of time put in, but I'm trying to think of deadlines. Colorado, I think the application deadline this year is April 7th. So you have to have your application in by then, unless you're doing an over-the-counter tag, in which case you can literally buy it at any point during the hunting season if it's open. Idaho, like I said, deadline has already passed, so we missed that. Montana, I believe the deadline for Montana is May 1st for their elk tags. So there's still a little bit of time to do some planning and kind of doing a little bit of research. So those are going to be your main 3 states you're going to look at as a beginner. Like I said, with Montana, there's a chance you could draw with 0 points in your very first year, but your odds are not great. And well, they're okay. It's like 75% or maybe a little bit below that, between like 70 and 75%. So that's actually not too bad. But if you were to wait a year, your odds would go up to more roughly around 90%, which is pretty darn good. So so that's kind of your key decisions on choosing a state, is whether you're able to get a tag. Also, the archery versus the rifle we kind of talked about, versus in terms of how easy it is to get a tag. One benefit to Montana, Chris, you want to touch on the benefit of Montana with the archery and the rifle deal?
Yeah, so it's one of the more unique setups, even though it's got some challenges. Specifically, you can go hunt your archery season there, and then if you don't fill your tag, come back with your rifle, and can you go late season with muzzleloader then as well? Is it all? I can't remember if that's part of it.
I'm not sure. I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say that the muzzleloader might be a different tag. I could be wrong on that though. Don't take my word for it. But the main thing is that yes, you can hunt the archery season. You have to buy a separate archery stamp, which is like, I can't remember how much it is, like $40 or $50 or something. You have to buy an archery stamp to hunt archery season with your general tag, your general elk tag. But like Chris said, if you don't fill your tag with your bow, you can come back and hunt with your rifle as long as it's in general units. And there are a list of units that are part of a general tag. So that's pretty cool. That is probably one. I think that's probably one of the biggest benefits of Montana. In Colorado, when you get a tag, you have to designate whether you're going to hunt with a bow or with your rifle, and you have to hunt during that season. There is no using your tag in multiple seasons. So that's kind of the benefit of Montana. Probably part of the reason why you're paying a little bit more for a tag there, but also Montana is just really, really good of getting money out of non-residents.
It's a big state that like you drive forever if you're going to drive from one side to the other. So
yeah, it does take some time. Anyway, Chris, why don't we talk about just some tools that you can use to research, maybe some hunting. Let's say that you narrow down what state you want to go to. In this case, let's say, okay, I want to just go get an over-the-counter tag, a rifle for second rifle in Colorado. What are some tools that we use to research hunting units and choose which one we want to go to?
Yeah, I mean you can just start by your basic Googling and AI now. AI is such a powerful tool, but that'll kind of give you an idea. And then for me, that's where I would start if I know absolutely nothing before even getting into any like apps or platforms or anything like that help you. Because those can also become overwhelming pretty quick with a lot of the features. And then I'd look at the state overall and go, okay, well, these 4 units seem to be pretty close together, and they're on the top 10 units to try to apply for. And that's kind of where my mind goes for if I'm in an area where I show up to that I've never been before, and I'm like, this is an alien land, and I'm not doing too hot here. I haven't seen anything in a couple days. Trust me, you're going to have the thought well, I don't see anything on this side of the ridge, that side of the ridge, the next ridge. Let's change units. Let's go this, an hour this way or something like that. So that's nice to have in your back pocket. That's a plan B. It's something backup that you're planning for so that if you do get in a situation out in a new unit, and you've done the research, that's how I start to approach where am I going to go in the state. Obviously, you and I talk about it, and then we get into the apps. But you can be on Onyx, Go Hunt, there's Hunt Stand. You're looking pretty much for keywords like success rates, amount of elk, what percentage of the unit is public versus private. That's going to be a huge thing because they could have a ton of elk in it, but if it's all private, it don't matter. And then how much pressure. And then ultimately, all those things can be great, and there could be no access. You just can't get to the unit. So then it's you got to be looking at access points. So it's breaking those things down. Like I said, public land success rate isn't going to be as important as the percentage of public land. If there's a lot of elk there, you're going to have an opportunity. And then so public land, and then how much elk density is there? Then access points, looking at those as you're planning. That's kind of what I would do. I think that's what you do as well. What are some other things you throw in there as far as tools?
Well, I'm just gonna say this, and I realize that this is me just saying you need to spend more money on something, but I truly believe that having a Go Hunt Insider membership is maybe one of the best. And if you're serious about getting into Western hunting or serious about,
and we're not paid or sponsored.
No,
so
not at all. This is something I pay for every year, and happily pay for it. But if you're serious about Western hunting, and if you're serious about being more successful on hunts and stuff, you just need to get a Go Hunt Insider membership. I've tried some of the other services and that kind of do what they do, and Go Hunt is just hands down the best. They kind of have all the information that we're talking about that you need in one clean, easy place to find. They have some really amazing tools within their service. Like they have draw odds, for example. So you can have a pretty good idea of whether you even have a shot at drawing a certain tag if you're looking at a limited entry type of tag or a tag that takes a certain amount of points to draw. They have draw odds. They also have a really cool tool called filtering, which is a really great way to actually narrow down where you want to hunt. You can put in all these different filters to kind of figure out, okay, this is maybe the unit I should look at. You look at things like um, how many preference points you have. You can filter the amount of the percentage of public land in a unit. You can filter success rates, like Chris talked about. You can filter um, antler, like or buck to doe ratio or bull to cow ratio, which is basically per 100 cows, how many bulls are there. So you can filter that way, and this is all using data that's published by the game agencies of each individual state. So I think that that is truly the best way to kind of figure out where you want to hunt. And also, when you click on a unit to look at it, in this filtering, it also gives a little unit profile. It can tell you a little bit about the area. It can tell you a little bit about the hunting seasons. It gives you all sorts of data and information. And then there's even comment sections below where other members will say, oh, I hunted here in this year. Here's what my experience was. Here's what I saw. There was a ton of other hunters. Stay away from this part of the unit if you want to get away from people. It's just like invaluable information that you would never you could eventually figure out, but it would take you hours and hours of research and time on your computer. Whereas if you pay for this service, which I think it's $150 a year, it does it all for you. And then they also have mapping, like a mapping platform that you can use on your phone for when you're in the field. It's like a one-stop shop for everything. They also have a gear shop, and they do a lot of discounts for members. They do like free shipping. It's a great site. Again, we're not affiliated with it at all, but I am a huge fan. And so if you want to cut your learning curve in half, just pay for the membership, like seriously. So yeah, I guess those are the main tools that I use. Then I also use Onyx for mapping. Yes, I have Go Hunt and Onyx. They each have certain features that are a little different than each other, and so it's nice to have the two apps with different features for mapping and planning and stuff like that. Also, get the Google Earth Pro on your computer, because Google Earth is going to have way better satellite imagery than any other mapping platform out there. So there's a lot of tools to put in your tool belt for planning. We're not going to get really deep into e-scouting or anything like that in this episode, just because that can be a whole episode in and of itself. We've talked about it a little bit in the past, but we're not going to go too deep into that part of elk hunt planning. But we're talking about like just the things that you need to do just to get started down that path. There's a lot of content out there about e-scouting and elk tactics and all that kind of stuff. We're not going to touch on that a ton. So with that, I think we move on to step 2, Chris.
Well, I think also just with that, I just want to add one more thing there. The success rates, I mean, if you're over 20% success rate in a unit, that's pretty good.
That's very good.
Especially for, first time hunting, being out there. But you're going to want to look at the different seasons, because there's different success rates for different seasons, and different weeks definitely play a factor. But if there's like 1,200 hunters in a unit, which is possible, I'm looking right now, 184 bulls were taken out of that one. That's a 15% success rate.
Yeah.
That's a lot of hunters.
It's a lot.
That's a lot of bulls. Like, to be honest, that's, if you think about, if you lined them all up, you'd be like, dang, a lot of bulls were shot this week.
Mm-hmm.
That's also not, like, if you think the amount of people
per bull
out there. So there's a lot of hunters that flood into these states for those seasons. You will see hunters. Obviously, the further back you go, and then making sure if you can handle it, are away from four-wheelers, side-by-sides, those types of things. That's going to help. And it's just nice as a hunter. Like, you want to be cordial with the community, but we're not going out there to be like buddies with all the hunters. We have a common respect, but at the same time, you want to be out in the middle of nowhere where no one is stalking in on the deer you've been watching for 7 hours.
Yeah.
And you're about to make your move, and all of a sudden you got a guy like we did coming down the hill, taking his shirt off in the middle of the sun. Long story, but blowing your chances of like, we've stalked this deer all day, or know where he is, and here he comes, and he just blows out the deer. So
yep.
Not cool.
Yeah, when you're looking at these statistics, you just have to kind of read between the lines and so of some of them. Like you were saying, Chris, just because it has a high success rate doesn't necessarily mean that that's a unit you should go to. Because, like you said, then if you look at the total number of hunters that were in that unit, you could be rubbing shoulders with all sorts of people. And that's not a super fun way to hunt, which in general, even if you're hunting in a unit that is considered a high pressure unit or has a lot of hunters, depending on the unit and how far back you're able to get from major roads and trailheads and stuff, at the end of the day, I don't think about harvest success rate super high when I'm considering a unit, mainly just because you don't really know you don't know the details of exactly what happened. Like, was success rate low because there wasn't a lot of elk? Not necessarily. Was success rate low because the terrain is challenging and there aren't many people that are willing to like exert themselves to that level to find success? Like that's certainly a possibility too, but I don't necessarily take harvest success as a very like clear depictor of actual elk population. There's other studies and reports that you can get from state game agencies that can tell you what the estimated herd is of a unit. So that those are more reliable things to use when it comes to, okay, what's my actual opportunity, or how likely am I actually to kill an elk here? And really the likelihood of you killing elk kind of comes down to you. And I think that's actually a good segue into step 2 is, if you're willing to work really hard for it, if you're willing to work harder than the average hunter or the other people that are hunting that unit, then you have, I would say, probably a better chance at killing an elk than what you're seeing in the reported harvest rate or harvest success rate. And that's going to come down to having a really good hunt plan, which which we're kind of talking about now, but also you got to be physically ready for it. Like you got to be physically fit if you want to be able to get 5+ miles into the back country away from where all the crowds are and all the other hunters are. You got to be physically ready. And that is like endurance, like having good lungs and having strong legs, and then just being ready to carry heavy loads for long distances.
I sent you something in our chat.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking, it was a link to, it's a little bit dated, 3-year averages between 2017 and 2019. I think it's table 3 if you do want to pull it up. It's just fun to look at. But you can see the amount of hunters per unit, amount of elk that were taken. You can see the
Mm-hmm.
success rate, the days of harvest. They even have the unit numbers in there, which is all public knowledge or public, searchable. So
Yeah.
it's just fun data to look at, because then you're able to like assess yourself a plan. And
Yep.
that's the name of the game. Like if you're doing it yourself and you're not getting an outfitter, if you're doing an outfitter, all this is going to be taken care of for you. You're literally flying in. Just make sure you have your proper gear,
Mm-hmm.
your bow or your rifle, and they're pretty much going to try to put you right on top of them for you to be successful. So
Yeah, that is another avenue. If you've got the cash and you're willing to pay for it, like you can hire an outfitter, and that's not the wrong answer either.
nope, nope,
Even if you want to do like DIY stuff and like you want to be able to do this stuff on your own, going out with an outfitter your first time out and maybe learning the ropes a little bit, learning about how to hunt elk, that's a great option. And yeah, it's going to be expensive your first time up, but it might be a good investment in the long run. Not something that we did.
yeah,
We decided to take the harder path of trying to teach ourselves, but we enjoy that kind of thing.
yeah. You talked about like cardio. Definitely be in touch with the type of terrain. Like you got to understand what you're getting into. So even calling like so you're on the platform, go hunt, get into the 3D models, look at the type of topography you're looking at, because a
Mm-hmm.
bird's eye view is just a bird's eye view. And sometimes if you're not seasoned to elevation charts and topography,
Oh
you're
yeah,
not gonna have any idea what you're looking at.
learn how to read a topo map.
Yeah. Because then you can actually, what's nice is put your access point. You can do okay, we're gonna hike this basin, we're gonna hike up this incline, which seems to be the most gradual. We're going to hit this logging road, then we're going to come across this ridge, and then we're going to get to base camp. And this is where we're going to tent somewhere in the general quarter mile of this.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's like 4 or 5 different glassing points from there. that we don't have to hike crazy far to get to.
Yeah.
Because you said the name of the game is having these heavy packs. And if you are going like us, going deep, you got to have fortitude for one, packing in camp. And then you have to understand you're not packing out camp when you harvest an elk or a deer. You're packing out the animal
And camp.
and camp if you can do it.
Yeah.
But if you have multiple tags, especially on an elk, you're gonna have to make a couple trips.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the name of the game. So being light is super clutch. And then second, a lot of guys say it. We know it. Keeping your feet alive is the name of the game.
Yep.
Because your legs and your back and everything can be sore. You can drop those packs. You can take a 20-minute break. You can eat, rehydrate. You could even spend an hour just chilling and resting up. But if your feet got blisters all over them,
Oh,
or you got
dude.
hot spots, you're done. You're
I've
done.
said it. We've said it on this podcast before, and I will say it again. I will preach it till the day I die. Nothing will ruin a hunt faster than messed up feet. Like it. That is a hunt ender
If we
right
can give
there.
any tip, the moment, like do a pre-wrap on your foot if you're accustomed to where you get blisters, especially on the
Hot spots and whatnot.
yeah. But if you feel hot spots, nope, stop.
Yep.
Take the
Take your
sock off, wrap
dry your
with
foot
tape.
out.
Yep.
Yep.
Because like I experienced, I thought I was just having hot spots, and I'd wear my boots all day, and nope, full blisters. So
Mm-hmm.
they were not good, and it ruined my hunt.
Yep. But in terms of physical fitness, like I said, that cardio, like for me, I really enjoy trying to set a goal or be training for like an event before hunting season. For me, I just find it a lot easier to enjoy training and exercise when I have like a goal I'm working to. And for me, it can't be something just like I'm going to get in shape for elk season. Maybe for some people that would work, but for me, it's got to be something like an event. So for me, I've been running marathons the past 2 years. And so I'm like, I'm going to run a marathon in June or maybe even later because that's going to help me get my cardio up. I'm going to be really good. My cardio is going to be really good. And then the last couple months before my hunt, in this case, we're hunting in September for elk, then I'm really going to focus on my leg strength and my back strength, my posterior chain. I'm going to start doing a lot of rucks. I'm going to do weighted packs and hikes and hills and stuff like that. It's just really important that you're physically fit, and you don't need to have like elite fitness. You don't need to be like a elite athlete or anything for the mountains, but you cannot be underprepared because I mean, if you get in the mountains, we're talking higher altitude, elevation, all that kind of stuff. Your lungs aren't used to that, especially if you're from a place that's closer to sea level. Your lungs are not prepared for that. And if you live in a fairly
Unless you're
flat
me,
place,
you're an optimal performance at all times.
wow. Wow.
It's wild. Last like 2 weeks, my wife and I have been kind of joking and laughing about it. We've been doing some mentor counseling to a couple that's going to get married here. So it's fun because you're like reminiscing back to the newlywed stage and like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, we had energy and you were able to date and now you have kids. And it's like, like just the change. But the point I was making is I've been thinking a lot about how I used to be able to literally stretch 4 or 5 minutes before a basketball game and never be sore and run all day. I could go to Lifetime Fitness and just like hardcore play basketball 10,
Yep.
15, 20 games in a row and still want more, not even be sore the next day or anything, and just go back and do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Not anymore. Not anymore. But like we also have different builds. So while you
Yeah.
get ready for, marathons and doing that type of activity, I'm very lanky. So I kind of have like a one step to your two almost somewhere or, something of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So even like clearing fences or different things like that, I just have different challenges as every guy does in a group is going to have different unique challenges physically. I sit most of the day now for my job, which doesn't help me at all. So
Right.
yeah, getting out and especially doing walks with even your family. Just put stuff on and go for a walk, go for a
Yeah,
hike.
I've done that before. We do like a family walk, like even like with a stroller with the kids and everything, and I'll throw my backpack on with like 40 or 50 pounds in it, and you're still going on a walk with your family. The only difference is you got a bunch of weight on your back, but it's still good training and good preparation. So you don't need to overthink it. You don't have to run marathons. You don't have to do that sort of thing, but don't don't just sit on your butt and then 2 weeks before your hunt say, oh, maybe I should go on a couple runs or something. Like, you're not doing yourself any favors. You're not setting yourself up for success. So just be planful in that way and take the fitness aspect of it seriously, because it'll only help you in the mountains.
Yeah, so
All
let's
right.
get into just the big things as far as like investing. What does a practical gear system look like?
Yeah.
For you, for me, for any guy and gal, this can be 100% applicable to you need these things, and then you can obviously get varying levels of quality, but I wouldn't say you should skimp, because if you invest, buy once, cry once, as you've heard, it'll last you as long as you're not like running through thorns or something and it's tearing it apart. So,
Yeah.
what are your go tos? Give me some one, two, threes. These you got to have these, and you gotta have them broken in.
Yeah. I think priority number one, it starts from the ground up, and I think priority number one is good boots. And we've talked about boots a lot because it's something we're passionate about, because we've had some bad experiences with boots. And like we said, having torn up feet can just completely ruin a hunt. And so, like, if you want to maximize your chances of success, you want to maximize the effectiveness of the boots on your feet. So that is not an
With
area I would.
with that, insoles, socks, tape, probably
Full foot
athletic,
system, full foot
athletic,
system.
uh, band-aids of
Yep.
some nature. You
Luco
may
tape.
you may
Just
want to
remember
bring
that.
some antiseptic ointment too in case you do develop a blister,
Yep.
and probably at least two pairs of socks, like minimum two pairs of socks, because you can always take
hmm
one off
Yeah.
while the
The
other one
key is
dries.
the key
But
is keeping your feet dry. So if you feel like your socks are starting to get really sweaty and wet, it's time to take those socks off and put some dry ones on, because moist, wet skin tears a lot easier than dry skin. So at the end of the day, the better your boots fit, the less the other things are going to matter, just because you won't have as many hot spots. You won't have to worry, hopefully you won't have to worry about taping quite as much, but those things do crop up even if you have boots that fit you perfectly. But my biggest advice to anyone who is getting into western hunting or going on their first elk hunt, take the time to find a good pair of boots. Like, try on different brands. Don't be brand loyal. It doesn't matter. No one cares what brand of boot you wear on your foot. What matters is that it fits you, that it's comfortable, and that it's durable. So try on different brands, try on different boots, and just be completely honest with yourself. And don't be brand loyal. People get so brand loyal, and it's when it comes to boots, it's so silly, because as
mhm,
long as it works well and it does its job, that's all that matters. So off my soapbox for boots,
brands
but
can look cool, but they can really suck.
they can.
So then
Um,
we get into packs. Like
yeah,
we'll just jump straight to there. So you got your feet all set up. You know you can walk 5-10 miles and you're going to be good. You're confident in that. You found the right footwear for the terrain you're going to be on, because obviously if you're on flatter terrain you can wear probably more sneaker esque. If you get into shale or ridge systems, mountains, stuff like that, you don't want to turn an ankle.
no.
So those are just things to consider. But then we get into packs, and packs are important. Why, Peter? Can I just run a backpack like my knapsack from sixth grade?
I mean, you could, but that's foolish. Your pack is your life out there, especially if you're doing like a backpack, like a backcountry style hunt. If you're doing shorter distance, like day hikes or truck hunting, that kind of thing, you can get away with a more simple, cheap pack. But if you're doing any of this backpack stuff where you're hauling everything you need to live on your back for several days. So your tent, your food, your weapon, your clothes, all that stuff. And not only that, but if you do get an animal down, you need something that's capable of hauling heavy, heavy loads of meat. So you can't just go and get just any old backpack from Fleet Farm. You need a backpack that has either an internal frame or an external frame. Most hunting backpacks these days, or like high quality hunting backpacks these days, are internal frame. But you need a good backpack. It's really important. And typically, unfortunately, the more you spend, the better they are. That's just kind of true. There are some cheaper, like internal frame Western hunting backpacks that you can get, but like when you skimp on the money there, you definitely get lower quality and less comfort. And
This
comfort
isn't it.
does matter.
I just think there's a Michael Jordan of backpacks. Of there's one that stands above them all, and granted, I haven't used them all. Like there's a considerable amount, but in handling the ones that I have access to, whether you're at like a sporting goods place, we're out west. You go to like the different outfitter or the different brands, like the showrooms and different things. I'm just through and through convinced that there's only one way to go here, and it's EXO.
Yep. And we're not sponsored.
Nope.
We pay full price.
Yep, I paid whatever 700, $800 for that pack, and that's something that's like, man, it's a lot of money for
Mm-hmm.
this. But when you receive that and you've packed it and you've had it on your back and it's gone the distance and it's still going the distance and it's performing in every way, it's functional in every way, that's my personal opinion, that this for me is like, this is the Hall of Fame. And I've never ever regretted one moment anything, any aspect of that pack. When they went from the K3 to the K4, got even better.
Yep.
So I'm going to give praise where praise is due. If you're looking for a pack, I'm not telling you have to buy it. You need to experience it. You have to at least handle it and look at the differences and the nuances between different brands, because the other brands are great. You're going to find great packs all over the place,
And
especially
they're
for.
all gonna they're a lot of them are gonna do exactly what is needed.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, and you agree with this, there's just something special about EXO.
Well,
And it could, and a lot of it
they
could
only
come
do
down to,
packs.
yeah.
Like
And
that's
it
what
could,
they do.
and some of it could come down to personal preference too. Like I know everyone's like, some people like a pack with a bunch of pockets, so that it can be very modular, and so they can have specific pockets for certain things. Some people like a pack where it's like there's just basically one or two big pockets and it's super simple. I just love the way EXO packs are laid out. They are very simple and straightforward, but they're very heavy duty and they are lightweight. And that's pretty much all you can ask for in a great pack. So
Yep. The way that it folds out, the meat rack, the meat shelf, how you can put your bladder in there, the different size for
different
volume,
bag sizes and stuff. Yeah.
just fantastic. And then
Yep.
I do have a knock. I do have a knock. And it's only because I'm a very lean guy, so I have like kind of sharp hip bones. It's just any pack would likely give me an issue. So for me, like I just need really cushy hip pads or
Yeah.
the belt area. You don't have that problem.
No, I don't. But again, I'm not as bony as you.
Yeah. Hey, I'm a cheetah, man. I'm a cheetah, okay?
There you
I'm not
go.
like leopard or lion-esque build.
Ooh, I'm a leopard or a lion.
Probably be a leopard, right?
Sure. Yeah. Not the beefiest, but built.
You're not a gorilla. Like,
No.
dude, although a gorilla could probably like carry 2 elk over each shoulder after it went hunting.
All right. Well, so packs, we've talked about that. Let's kind of rapid fire these next ones. These ones are
Yeah.
important, but I really feel like boots and pack are going to be your most important. Number 5 on our list here is also probably very important, but there you can certainly get away with cheaper options. But anyway, number 3, sleep system. So when we say sleep system, we mean a sleeping pad. So something you're going to put on the ground that you're going to lay on, kind of like a little mini air mattress. That's important. It's really a creature comfort. There's all sorts of thicknesses you can go with, all sorts of insulation levels. Those things are important. You're just going to have to do your own research, but you're going to need a good sleep system that also includes a tent, something to sleep in. Again, I think tents, that's something you can maybe go a little cheaper on. It's not as big of a deal, but typically if you want something lightweight, you're going to pay higher cost for it. But if you're willing to carry some extra pounds, you can get away with some pretty cheap stuff. REI has some pretty good tents that you can get for a pretty good price. Layering system, so your clothing, I mean, wow, what a bottomless pit of discussion that can be. Just find what works for you. Stay away from cotton. That's my biggest thing. Just stay away from cotton. Stick with merino wool, polyester, and you should be fine. But just find a good clothing layering system that's going to work well for you and that you're able to afford. That's important. The last one is optics. Optics is another thing where you kind of get what you pay for. Like, you can get by with, especially archery hunters. Like, if you're doing archery elk for your first hunt, you probably don't need super fancy binoculars because optics is not the name of the game when it comes to archery. Calling is. But if you're rifle hunting and you are, looking for, trying to spot elk from 2 to 3 miles away, the nicer the optics you have, the easy, better clarity it's going to have, or your binoculars or your spotting scope's going to have. But you can get away with some budget options. And you know what? A lot of the budget options for optics these days are still way better than the optics that were available to us 10, 15 years ago. So we're kind of in the golden age of hunting gear, I would say. Any other advice when it comes to any gear related things, Chris, when it comes to preparing for your first elk hunt?
No, you're going to get a lot of information out there, just like we're given. You're going to hear recurring themes. I mean, you can chat GPT it if you want. It'll give you a list and a breakdown. At the end of the day, just make sure you got layers to stay warm. You got your boots set up. You got your pack. Got your rifle. And then you're going to eventually just kind of learn it. So
There's some trial by error for sure.
There's things that we thought early on. We're like, man, we're taking this, we're taking this, we're taking this. The more we do this, the more we're dropping stuff and going, I don't use this. And it's not like safety stuff. Like, we pack tourniquets now, and there's some other things that we've included, but I want to be as lightweight as possible because I just know I've packed in way too much food at times. I've packed in a bunch of random stuff. Like, even like when you're counting batteries, right? You don't need 4 batteries or 6 batteries or something like that.
Right.
You might
Yeah.
just need one extra one, or 2 extra ones for whatever your purpose is, and then just switch out your batteries, the stuff that has batteries, ahead of time. So do I need yeah, self-explanatory.
Yeah. It's very easy to overpack. It's very easy to pack your fears. And the less you can do that, the better off you're going to be when it comes to actually getting into where you're wanting to hunt and then also packing out an animal. Another little quick tip, don't break your boots in on the mountain. Like, if you get new boots, take some time to break them in before your hunt because it's not fun to have blisters. Just telling you that now. And then another thing is, you know what? If you're going on your first elk hunt and you don't want to buy all the gear that's necessary to do these backcountry hunts, because let's face it, to get into the backcountry, it requires more gear. It requires more, tents. It requires all this stuff. And if you just want to kind of get your feet wet in elk hunting, consider you're doing like a more of a truck camping thing where you have like your base camp, your hunt, and then you're doing more like day hikes, day trips into hunting areas. That's not a bad way to start. All right. Step 4, we're going to talk about just kind of rapid fire here, learning basic elk strategy. I don't even really want to go into this too much just because there's so much content out there. Chris, would you agree with that? That, I mean, I don't want to, it can be there's so many details that are going to be completely dependent on where you're hunting, what season you're hunting, all that kind of stuff. So you're going to kind of have to figure out what that elk strategy is based off of the season you're hunting in. A really great resource that you could check out is something called Outdoor Class. They have all this content that you can watch. It's not free. I think you can maybe do a free trial, but they can teach you, kind of the basics of elk hunting and things to do, things to look for, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the strategies are really going to be dependent on whether you're archery hunting, rifle hunting, what rifle season you're hunting, that kind of stuff. Because elk, they move a lot and they do different things different times of year. Do you want to speak to that at all, Chris, or should we just jump on to step number 5? Since we're talking about planning an elk hunt, we're not talking about executing an elk hunt.
Yeah. You're just going to look at, you could just have to understand your game. I'll just say that. Because if you're looking at feeding patterns, where they bed, morning activity, evening activity, elk have great noses, so they're going to smell you if you're up downwind of them, no, upwind of them. So, yeah, just know where you're getting into in the unit, learn as much as you can about the unit and the elk in that unit. And then, yeah, that's, we're more talking about, that's a lengthy topic. So there's plenty of resources out there, like you said. So
Yeah.
as far as travel, like overall travel, not just like parking at the access point and getting in, understand airlines, understand,
Drive
uh,
times.
yeah, drive times. Are you doing pit stops along the way? How much is that going to cost you? Uh, do you have a buddy that's going with you? If you're driving by yourself and you're driving like us 17 hours or something crazy or whatever it's going to be, that's a good shot. It's a good
Yeah.
shot of time. So
And you got
having,
to plan for that. If you have 7 days that you can commit to this, but you live in Minnesota like us, and we're driving somewhere in Colorado, and yeah, it's 15 hours each way. I mean, you're planning at least a full day of travel on each end of that, if not a day and a half, depending on if you're able to drive it straight through or able to stop somewhere and sleep. You have to have a game plan, and logistics is a big part of it. Also expense, gas prices. You can't just think, oh, okay, well, the cost of this hunt is going to be the cost of my tag and then some, maybe if I need some new gear. No, you have to think about gas. If you're going to stay at hotels, you got to think about the food that you're going to buy on the way out there. So it's important to have some sort of budget in mind as well. But talk about the other strategies, Chris, in terms of logistics. So like meat, that's a big one, right?
yeah, you want to make sure it doesn't spoil. Otherwise, it's useless. Make sure your cooler setup is up to snuff. So, do you have enough space for one? Because if you don't have enough space, it doesn't really matter what we're talking about here. Can't bring like your picnic cooler,
Right.
especially for an elk. If you have multiple tags, you can't just bring one big cooler. You're gonna have to probably have two. We usually pack 2 or 3 coolers, like large coolers. So,
Yep.
um, and then we've done dry ice. We've insulated some of them. They're not all the same brand. Some of them are higher quality than others.
Yep.
But I wouldn't say a cheaper cooler is still better than no cooler,
Yep.
especially when you're adding ice. Just make sure the meat's not getting wet and you should be good.
Yeah.
Make sure it's cold.
Yep, just have a plan for your meat. And if you're planning on using a butcher somewhere, just make sure that you know when you're able to drop that off, know the expenses associated with something like that. And then also if you're planning on processing yourself, just make sure you have the time set aside for that. Don't just only have the hunt planned and then get home and be like, crap, I have to deal with all this meat now. Have time set aside for that and know that it's probably going to take longer than you think it's going to.
A butcher might not accept out of state meat as well.
Have a butcher lined up ahead of time.
Yeah, and then know the cost because you could easily be spending a couple grand.
Yep, for sure. Emergency communication, Chris. This is one that we've explored a little bit the past year, but in aside from just communication, I mean, this year I left like a emergency contact list for my wife, and like emergency information. And in the event something were to happen to me, I left information like roughly the area that I'm going to be, phone numbers to call in the event of emergency, life insurance information, just like all this stuff that she would need in the event something were to happen to me.
Yep, that's smart.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not hard to give a basic list. It's not, you should be doing that regardless if you're a husband and have family and kids. Like, make sure if you pass away, your wife's not in the dark while she's like,
Yeah.
hopefully mourning, because hopefully she's mourning you're passing away. don't be a jerk to your spouse for
Yeah.
sure. Like, they're your life partner. But
Yeah. And we're not trying
Yeah.
to be morbid. We're just trying to be, it's a potential reality. And so it's just one you
Mhm.
should plan for. Set your
Yep.
family up for success.
Yep. So
Yeah.
other than that, I know there's guys who do solo hunts.
Hmm.
I don't prefer ever doing that. I like the camaraderie and I like the teamwork. It's just so much better, in my opinion. And then I guess other than that, we're on to kind of like a reality check. So
Hmm.
guess what? You might not come out of it successful,
We didn't our
but
first time out.
hopefully you're coming out of it learning a whole lot.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. You're going to have a lot of hunts ahead of you. Don't be bitter. Don't be like so focused on something that you're walking away from an experience and you've not grown at all.
Yeah.
Like you could be bummed. Being bummed is okay. You can beat yourself up too, especially if you like let an arrow go and it hits a branch or you didn't find it after tracking it for 2 days. That sucks. Pit of your stomach sucks. But learning is how we grow and mature. And hopefully somebody's passing along knowledge to you. And hopefully you're eventually going to pass along knowledge to somebody else who's in a position like
Hmm.
you are someday. So kids
Yeah.
or, the neighbor kid down the street.
Yeah, and we spend these elk tags are a lot of money, and so I know that I've done this to myself where I put so much pressure on myself to be successful because I'm spending all this money on this tag. It's a lot of money. I'm spending time away from my family to do this, and so I think a lot of the time we put a high amount of pressure on ourselves to find success or what we view success to be, which is bringing home an animal. But like Chris said, hopefully you've got a lot of hunting years ahead of you. And the best thing you can do is just take this experience, commit it to memory, and then you'll be able to look at the hunt, whether successful or unsuccessful at the end. And you'll be able to look at it and, like Chris said, learn something, whether you learned what not to do or you learned what was a good strategy that worked well for you. It's all important, every single part of it. You're going to hike a lot more than you think you are. You're going to put a lot of miles on your feet and you're going to question everything that you do on your first elk hunt because it's not easy. If it was easy, everyone would do it. And if it was easy, harvest success rates would be so much higher than they are. But it's an adventure, it's a journey, it's a challenge, and if it wasn't challenging, it wouldn't be fun. So yeah, all this is super normal. But I think it's important to go into your first elk hunt with realistic expectations. Obviously, it's good to be optimistic in saying I'm going to kill an elk, but I think it's also equally healthy to be like there's a really good chance I don't kill an elk and I'm okay with that.
And I'll just say this, ask for help. Don't be it's people out in the field are pretty much super helpful, especially if you're like earnest about your need or ahead of time you're calling game wardens or you're calling up your grandpa or anybody who's done those things in the past, those hunts. Go learn. Why would you not?
Mm-hmm.
Why would you not listen to stories or tips or hey, don't get down in here because you'll never get the elk out.
Right.
And when they,
Totally.
like sometimes somebody might say that and they're like way out of shape and it's not that bad. But if it's coming from a game warden or something like this is not traversable with the snowfall, you should probably listen to
Mm-hmm.
that because you can get yourself in a very poor situation very quickly.
Yeah. Well, and with that being said, too, I think as you gain more experience, hunting, I think, especially sharing information with people, is a give and take game because it's really easy to go out there and be like, oh, I need information. I want people to give me tips and stuff on how to be successful. But if all you ever do is take, that's just not cool, man. I mean, be willing to also give. And yeah, I'm not saying give away your honey hole. I'm not saying just give away information to make it easy for guys, but be willing to share knowledge and share experience to improve the experience of others because ultimately we need to share our experiences with others to keep this thing going. Because if we want people to continue to hunt, we want hunting to continue to be a thing in this country, we need to be willing to share with others and to continue this heritage. So I guess that's another kind of off-topic soapbox, but I think it's important to say if you are hoping or expecting others to share experience with you or information with you. You need to be willing to share experience and information yourself. Yeah. There's a little quote here. The first hunt isn't about success. It's about becoming an elk hunter. Just because you don't kill an elk doesn't mean you're not an elk hunter. If you're out there hunting them, you're an elk hunter. So I hope that this was good information for those of you listening, that these are some actionable steps and things that you can take into your planning process as you plan your first elk hunt. If you have any questions or want some opinions on something, or want a little deeper dive on something maybe you've heard in this episode, feel free to reach out to us on social media. We are on Instagram. We are on TikTok as well. We're happy to answer any questions. We also do have an email. If you want to email us, it's readysethuntpod@gmail.com. We are happy to answer questions and give any advice and recommendations that we can based off of our experience. But with that, Chris, I feel like we covered it pretty good, at least from a high level. It's easy to get into the weeds on this stuff. Do you have anything else you want to say?
I'm excited for this fall.
Yeah.
Hopefully we
Me
draw.
too.
I know we have some backup plans for if we don't draw.
Yep.
So that's something we didn't talk about. Obviously when you set your sights on a archery elk, we narrowed it down, points and everything like that. We said Colorado, and there's a chance we might not draw. So we've chatted about a couple other backup options, and there's a chance we don't draw any of them as well. So
yep,
we'll see what the year holds.
Yep. Anyway, we will hopefully talk to you guys next week. Thank you for listening, and remember to leave a review and follow us on socials. I already mentioned those. And we're just super thankful that you've joined us for this conversation and for this adventure. And we'll talk to you guys next time.
See you later.
Bye.